Welcome to the Light Up podcast. I am your host, Amy Wilkinson. I'm an intuitive guide and soul mentor. And through this podcast, you will receive conscious conversations, powerful downloads, and soul-stirring activations that will both support and inspire you to tap into your intuition, follow that higher calling, and live a life aligned with your soul. Because you are here to co-create a life rich in abundance, freedom, and deep joy, and to unleash who you truly came here to be. And we're here to help you discover how to access that. So let's dive on in and light up. Hello and welcome back to Light Up Podcast. Today I am joined by Shunanda Scott. Shunanda is an angel teacher. She is also an angel medium and she's an author as well. And I've had the privilege of being trained and mentored by Shunanda myself over recent years. So she's super activated in her mission to support people to develop their own angelic relationship. And she is a voice of the times in helping people to navigate this ascension journey that we are all on. And in this episode, we discuss spiritual awakening. We discuss the importance of cultivating and developing your own relationship with your guidance system, with your angels and the archangels to support your growth and evolution as we navigate these times and as we co-create future timelines. It's a really juicy, important episode. You guys are going to love it. So let's dive on in and light up. So welcome, Shunanda Scott. I have been so excited about having you on here. So thank you for saying yes, first of all, and being here today.
My absolute pleasure. I'm really excited. We have some amazing conversations, and I'm sure today's going to be the same.
We do. We have incredible conversations. For those of you that don't know, Shunanda is one of my amazing teachers and mentors and has been now, I think it was about 2020 or 2021 that we first started working together. And I've had the privilege of being mentored and trained by Shunanda in her incredible courses, which we can get into more later on in the podcast. But what I want to start with, Shunanda, one of the things that I love about you, I mean, there's so much that I love about you, but one of the things that I really honor and appreciate about you particularly is how clearly activated you are in what you're here to do, what you came here to do. And you're such a great model and expander for so many, particularly at this time. It's like, and I know that you've kind of really come into that over recent years where you're like, right, no fucking around. I'm here to do what I'm here to do. And a lot of that is about supporting others in their mission and purpose and activating their mission and purpose in tapping in with the angelic realm. And you've supported me so much in doing that. So I would love to start with, why do you feel at this time this is so important that each of us really remember why we're here, but tap into this guidance system that we have that's so available to all of us? Like, why is it now that you feel so called to bring this through?
I feel so passionately about that. I could probably talk to you about this for hours.
Mhm.
We are moving through quite extraordinary times, and I don't think you need to be a psychic or awake to even see just how significant the times are that we're moving through, right? But the perspective that I've been given by the angels is that it really is a really important time. We are moving through something. We're at the pointy end of this ascension cycle. An ascension cycle is roughly a 26,000 year period. And we all choose with our free will. We make a conscious decision to choose to incarnate on planet Earth and to participate in an ascension cycle, knowing full well that we're going to forget who we are. We're going to forget our higher consciousness. We're going to forget just how eternal our experiences are, how long we've been doing this for. And so we choose to incarnate hundreds, if not thousands of times over a 26,000 year period, knowing that we're going to get to expand our soul, our awareness, our being via our human experiences. And one of the benefits of that, that's part of the reason we decide to do it, is that at some point we have the potential to experience a very rapid acceleration collectively. And that's exactly where we're at. Right. And so it's almost a little bit of a chicken and egg question that you're asking. Is it important for us to remember? Do we need to actively take efforts and make this happen? Or is it happening spontaneously and organically and naturally because there is something that is a little bit beyond us that is triggering a really significant shift? And the answer is a little bit of both, I feel very, very passionately about this. It's, as you said, I didn't know this was going to be my job. I didn't know what my purpose was. I had no idea. In fact, I resisted and even rejected this pathway for a very long time. And, for me, and I've shared this with you, we've discussed this, at one point on the journey, it felt inevitable. It felt impossible to ignore. It felt really important. It felt like a risk. It felt illogical. I dead set thought I was going crazy deciding to commit to this pathway. But just on some level, it felt like I had no other choice, and I am very passionate about being able to share the journey with other people like yourself, to support them to start to understand just how powerful the support of the angels can be when we each individually hit that point of, oh my God, I think I really need to listen to this and commit to this pathway, even if we don't know exactly what that is. Because for me, that's what it boils down to. Why am I sitting here talking to you about this today? Why do I feel so passionately about it? Because the support and guidance that I've received from the angels personally over the last 15 years of my journey and my relationship with them has afforded me such a profound level of personal transformation, healing, peace, awareness, all the things that we want, that I can't not share that. It's impossible for me not to. So, any way that I look at this, have they helped me figure out my purpose and mission? Yes. Have they helped me heal? Yes, more than any other single modality that I've ever opened myself to, and I've tried them all. Have they helped me with abundance and manifestation? Yes, the levels that I did not think were possible. Have they helped me with parenting and with my children? Yes, in ways that has helped me understand human relationships and myself and my children. This is their purpose. This is the purpose of angels. And once you've experienced this yourself, it actually becomes almost impossible not to share that with others.
Mm-hmm. And I love, when I started doing your courses, and I'd had a spiritual connection for a long time. And I think many of us, I mean, because as you say, and this is what I love about, your work, is straight away you make it very clear that I'm not special. We all have this ability to tap in. I mean, we suffer from spiritual amnesia, as you say, and we come in and we forget, and we need to remember to remember. And I feel like we go through these waves of amnesia as well, right? We fall into our humanness, and then we remember, oh right, hang on, I can hand this over. And I love the way that you keep directing people back to the power that they have within them, the innate capacity to tap into that guidance system. Can you speak a bit more about that in the journey that you take your students on, in how, because I feel like a lot of people hear this and then they go, well, that's all right for you. You're an angel teacher, and
Yeah.
that's all right for this person, but I'm not psychic and I don't have those gifts. I mean, what can you say to people that have that? Because I feel like many do. They don't realize.
Oh, gee, I really want to swear.
Go for it. It's fun.
That's all bullshit. So this is the thing. There's so many distortions. There's so many manipulations. There's so many programs that we are navigating through, and within this pathway. So whether we want to talk about the ascension pathway or the spiritual pathway or the angelic pathway or the psychic pathway. There's actually a lot of distortions within that pathway as well, because humans are really complex and very strange beings. So the thing is that one of the things that I understand from my journey, and I'm such a strong advocate for, is that it's not just some special gift that some people have this ability to do. That is bullshit. So we are so incredible, Amy. We have actually been negatively impacted by many external forces trying to shut down the magnificence of our humanity. And this has been done intentionally over hundreds of thousands of years. Okay. But what this comes down to at its very core is that every single human actually is far more powerful than we are led to believe. And we can learn to access our intuitive pathways. And every single human has the ability to learn to connect with angels. And this is big work to bring out here in the world, because the angelic message has been distorted intentionally throughout some really fundamental and mainstream aspects of society. So the angelic messages have been distorted intentionally within mainstream religion, but unfortunately they've also been manipulated or not brought through to a very high level of clarity and quality through what we would describe as spiritual pathways as well. And this, that's a big call to make. But I think it's actually very refreshing for people when they hear someone say, everybody can do this. You're not blocked. It's safe to do. And there are methods that you can apply that will teach you how to develop a very strong relationship with the angelic realm. And it's learnable. It's learnable like anything else. It's learnable like learning to play a musical instrument, or, learning to be an artist. All of these things can be learned if you apply practice to it with a regular commitment.
Mm. And I've had that experience, and I know many others have had that experience, and it's glorious. And I think, it's also a sense for many, and I know you probably agree with this in terms of the students that you've brought through, in kind of coming out of the spiritual closet a little bit, right? And being able to, and I know that that's been the case for me. I've always had a spiritual connection, and then have moved through being a spiritual teacher through yoga and so forth. But, once you brought in the angels, or helped me to really activate that, it just took it
Mm.
to a whole nother level, which I love. And I love the way that you specifically channel the angels and the archangels, rather than necessarily tapping into another person's energy. You teach it in a way that is very clear, which feels very safe and and supported and protected. I want to talk a little bit about this ascension period that we're going through, and the fact that there is a lot of distortion that we see, and
Mm.
finding the balance as a light being. And we're all light beings, we're all made of light and energy first and foremost, but understanding that, um, it is our mission to keep our vibration high and to stay in the
Mm.
light and all of that, but also being aware and keeping our eyes open to what is going on and what's playing out, and the different levels of distortion and darkness that we
Yeah.
see. I find it hard, and I know others do as well, to find that balance in staying in the light, keeping the vibration high, but not closing off to what's going on around
Yeah.
us. So can you speak a little bit about that from an angelic perspective?
One of my favorite things that the angels actually helped me personally, that, I'd say this is a really important topic to have a conversation about, because this is probably for me personally one of the areas that I've actually experienced the most significant awareness shifts, and also just personal help from the angels. Because I know that for me, and you're familiar with my story, but there were times at the beginning of my journey where I found my spiritual sensitivities so difficult to manage and so unbearably painful at time. Because one of the things that I think might be helpful to bring in on this conversation is the term empath, right? So a lot of people, when they go through their spiritual awakening, and this was me 100%, they find themselves, sometimes very suddenly having very amplified intuitive or psychic experiences, and they feel an immense level of sensitivity to like this quite extraordinary darkness that exists in the world, and it's actually very hard to manage. And for some people, that's enough for them to not even go down that pathway because it's just too much. It's too painful. It feels too dark, right? And the angels have actually helped me with actually the core of my teaching. That the practices that I teach all come down to this, which is that the more you raise your frequency, the stronger you become. And what I don't mean strength as power or force over others. I mean radiance. I mean illumination. I mean expansion. Ironically, it's actually quite a vulnerable state because it's actually very open, right? So the more that you can raise your frequency very gradually, so, very chop wood, carry water. It's quite a humble process. It's quite a personal process of just taking one day at a time, one step at a time. The greater your capacity is to witness and tolerate and observe the extraordinary darkness that exists in the world. And this is actually really important because we could go down some rabbit holes here. Yes, there are some very, very dark things that are occurring in the world. But let's come back one step, because the nature of human existence is one of contrast. It's actually one that has a yin yang, dark light experience. It's the rules of engagement. If we choose to incarnate on Earth, we don't get to spiritually bypass and have sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and positive, positive frequency only. It doesn't work like that. The angels actually have brought through messages for me that have helped me understand that there is no positive or negative experience. There is only an experience. How do we know if something is dark or light? Well, we observe it. So we are so powerful that our experience can actually dictate our reality. So it actually comes down to a very simple practice of gradually choosing to raise your frequency. And choosing to raise your frequency is as simple as doing things that help you feel joyful, healed, peaceful, calm, accepting, compassionate, forgiving towards yourself and towards all beings. Now, that actually sounds pretty fucking healthy, doesn't it? Right? And so as we do that, it actually requires us to honor our pain, our wounds, our trauma, and the darkness that we may observe within our family, our friends, and the world around us. Now, the simplicity of that doesn't actually make it easy, though. This is, what we're talking about here is true mastery of the human experience. We can't have this conversation without talking about what the meaning of ascension is. And then, there's a phrase that everybody would be familiar with, which is the term ascended master. Now, that term has become glorified somewhat, or it's become a little bit cliched when we think about what that term means as an ascended master, because we'll start thinking about people like Jesus or Buddha, for example. So what on the spiritual pathway, that the people that we may want to put on a pedestal, people that we may see as a guru or above us. But actually, the term ascension is what every single one of us are here to do, to gradually master the human experience. Right? So then we come back to, we're at the pointy end of this ascension cycle, where there is basically a accelerated or amplified opportunity for us to experience our humanity and do the very best that we can from exactly where we're at in any given moment. We're exactly where we're meant to be, to keep expanding our frequency and our consciousness so that we all have the opportunity to master our human experience and ascend. So it's both, it's dark and light. There is opportunity in every single experience. The angels don't see any experience as negative. You know, you can have a conversation with them where you're really struggling, really, really struggling with your personal circumstances. And the messaging that they give is so calm and so patient and so accepting. And it's quite interesting. Sometimes it's quite cheeky. They're like, is this bad?
Mm.
They'll ask you, is this actually a negative experience? Do you really know if this is a bad experience?
Mm. I love that, bringing through the angel messages as I've developed and deepened that, and feeling that those kind of messages that come through, and also the cheekiness and also a bit of humor. And I can remember, Shenando, being in a situation where you were supporting me navigating through quite a big change that was coming up in my life. And the reason I want to speak to this is because I feel like so many of us are in this in between place, this in between
Mm,
what was and what's to come. And there is a sheer amount of discomfort in that.
mm,
And yet I remember being in it and checking in with my guidance, and it was, you're exactly where you need to be.
right.
Wait, pause. There's beautiful, loving. I think it's really important to speak to that, in that the messages that are coming through are always so nurturing and loving and compassionate,
Mm.
always from the angels. But so I want to, the interesting thing about it is understanding that we have so many different potential timelines, right? We do
Yeah.
have timelines, and yet there is an inevitability about this ascension process, right? There is an inevitability about that, but we resist it so much because we think that we need to do and we need to have it. And these are all the distortions, right, that we get in the 3D world. And you've really supported myself, and I know so many, in activating and aligning with the highest timeline
Mm.
without getting too far ahead of oneself. Can you speak to that and how important that is? But also, we can have so many potentials, but yet there's only one really. Like,
Yeah, okay.
it's a
We're
bit
gonna
of a
get a little bit
mindfuck.
quantum, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so so if we think about this from the sort of the big picture of what we're moving through right now, collectively, for the first time in a 26,000 year cycle, we've just hit a point where we're starting to be able to access the quantum field, the 0 point, the point where all times exist, where there's no future, no past, and or future and past exist in the now. So we're really talking quite quantum here. And it can be a little bit of a brain trick when you try and wrap your head around this. So this is kind of the point, this is like when we were all sitting up there deciding whether we were going to incarnate, we all went, oh my God, I get to be co-creator of this brand new reality, and I get to manifest instantly, and I get to play with the power of creation force, which is God expressed through my being. I get to be the center of the universe and make it up as I'm going along. And wow, wouldn't that be so phenomenal and amazing? Like, if you think about some of the terminology that you or perhaps other people would be familiar with, there's a lot of jargon out there. It's like, this is when we start to access Christ consciousness. This is when Christ returns. How does Christ return? Through our being, because we access that state of awareness that is commonly referred to as Christ consciousness. This is where, we start to talk about activating our 12-strand DNA. This is when we start to talk about, being like actually stuff that I literally can't even fathom. But what can we do when we access the full power of human consciousness? And that's what's occurring right now. So given that, like, that's all quite weighty. And, I'm sure as I'm saying this, people are thinking about lots of other really cool spiritual teachers, whether they're current ones or, historical ones who talk about this, right? But there's something within this that we need to talk about, which is that basically we have no idea what we're doing, right? None of us have actually accessed this state in this cycle. Nobody has. 5D is not here. We have not actually, self-realized or self-actualized this state of awareness. We're doing it now. We're making it up as we go along, right? So we can't see the future. The future outcomes, whether it be individual and personal ones or collective ones, are so dynamic because we are imagining and feeling and hoping them into existence right now, because we are powerful co-creators and aspect of God who are realizing, actualizing right now. So I know these words sometimes can be hard to actually connect with, but I think that's one of the things I like about doing this with the angels, because you're not meant to know your future now, right? We're meant to feel uncomfortable. That's the point. It's not meant to be familiar. We don't have a muscle memory for this. We don't have an Akashic record for this. We don't have past life experiences for this. We are starting to access timelines and potentiality that have not been realized at any point in this ascension cycle. So the rules of engagement have changed or are in the process of changing.
Hi, beautiful light beings. I'm interrupting this episode very briefly just to let you know that I have a community of women, the most incredible women, who have come together at Light Path Collective because they don't want to navigate this spiritual path and the challenges and the obstacles and the pain points that we bump up against when we are on this road to expansion. They don't want to navigate that alone. And you become a part of the conversation. These beautiful, rich topics and themes, we explore them and unpack them and go deeper into them in the Light Path Collective membership. We meet for fortnightly 90-minute to 2-hour calls, so you get to receive here. You get to understand the how and the inner work that's involved with the expansion piece, and this work then propels us forward towards where we want to be and what we want to create and who we need to become. All of the work happens here inside Light Path Collective. I'm so happy to have this collective available, and I invite you to join us. You can join at any time, you can cancel at any time, and there is so much value in this portal. You get access to the replays, you get meditations, subliminals, all of the things that are here to support you on your journey, because you're not meant to do it alone. So come and join us. Head over to lightplace.com.au, click on the membership tab. There's info in the show notes. We would love to have you. Okay, back to the episode.
The new rules for engagement. What can you expect now? You can expect to not have a sense of your future. You can expect to feel almost like the weight of the energetic potency of something coming that you can't see. The metaphor that the angels, and I think we've discussed this actually, the metaphor that the angels often show me is, this vision of someone standing at the edge of a cliff, but fog everywhere in front of them, but at the same like literally feeling as if they've got no other choice but to take a step forwards into the darkness and to take a leap of faith, right? This is the new rules for engagement, but that does not mean that you're blocked. That does not mean that it does not mean you need to be afraid. It does not mean that it's dangerous. It certainly does not mean that you're making a mistake. In fact, if what I'm describing today is something that you're sitting there nodding your head going, oh my God, that is so me, then that's actually an indicator that you're exactly where you're meant to be and that you're on track. You are making it up now because you are co-creating the new earth reality. We all are. That's the beauty of it. And this can be frustrating for some people to understand because, there's definitely a kind of an element within this journey of frustration of waiting for everybody else to wake up so that new earth can be realized. And it doesn't work like that. We don't wait for other people to finally wake up to the truth of the darkness in the world. That moment's inevitable. It's impossible for that not to occur. There is a perfect, very peaceful, very neutral moment where that occurs. We've all experienced divine timing in the past. We all know that it just happens exactly when it's meant to. We don't really like to admit it because it's not really that comfortable to admit that we don't actually have any control over our surroundings, right? But what this affords, and I think that the way that you intro this question is there is something very beautiful in this that we're not actually used to doing, which is being very patient and peaceful and trusting towards ourselves that everything is actually okay, that we are actually exactly where we're meant to be, that we don't need to push through, force, make it happen, work hard, that there is a grace and an ease to this experience that is actually very unfamiliar to us. One of the things that I have actually found has really helped me is that the angels just keep repeating these messages and to the point that sometimes it's a little bit annoying. Hey, it's like we don't want to believe them when they say this because we haven't experienced this anywhere. We haven't experienced in government, in education, in the workforce. We haven't experienced from our families. All the messaging that we have actually is very control based and takes us away from grace, right? So they help us very gradually reprogram our consciousness, but that actually does require some time and some repetition to feel their frequency and hear their messaging saying, it's okay, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Everything is happening in perfect divine timing. It actually changes your frequency. Actually, it expands your frequency and therefore actually helps you connect to the infinite possibilities of that which is yet unrealized. And you actually manifest, ironically, faster when you come into presence and grace and faith and slowing down.
And you can just feel the breaths being held and the resistance coming up for everyone that's listening to this. And it's a practice, isn't it? I mean, it is a practice over and over. I say, like, you think you surrendered and then you need to surrender some more and then some more. And I just see it as like taking off a layer of clothing. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
standing naked here. I've got nothing more. But yet it's continually asking us to let go and surrender.
yeah.
Speak to that piece on surrender because it's one that I've spoken about a little bit in previous episodes, and it's one that people really rub up against. And
Mm,
I know a lot of the guidance that comes through is let go, trust, have patience, surrender.
mm,
For all the people that are listening going, it's easier said than done.
yeah.
Some of the steps that we can do and to start to cultivate that practice a little bit more.
Mm. Look, I think that probably the most important thing to acknowledge there is that it actually is hard.
Mm.
We are actually starting to practice a very high level mastery spiritual practice. This isn't beginner practice. This is mastery. This is mastery of the human experience, right? But I think that what we're talking, like the answer is in what we're discussing, which is practice. And I actually remember talking to the angels about this at one point, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And look, I thought I'd done all my surrender work, and I remember getting to a point where, this is the gist of the conversation that I had with them. I remember actually being so frustrated with the fact that everything that I seemed to be doing wasn't working, that I actually got the shits. And I turned away from the angelic pathway for a short period of time. I was like, stuff this, it's not working. I'm going to do it my way. Right? That didn't last very long. That lasted 2 or 3 months. And then I came back to them and said, okay, look, to be fair, angels, my way's not working. You may be right. Um, how do we do this? I'm willing to give it a go with you guys. And the thing that was really interesting is I didn't receive any judgment from them. There was the welcome was completely neutral. It was like, fantastic, amazing. We're so proud of you. Let's do this together. How about we just practice? How about you just practice? We're going to be here with you every single step of the way. And all you need to do is just get through one day and then get through one more day and just take it one day at a time and one step at a time. Light practice and angel practice. These are the two core foundations of every course that I've ever created. But More than that, Amy, they're the core foundations of how I live.
Yeah.
This isn't about me trying to teach you a course or anybody a course. This is how I live. What do I do every day? I practice being a human, attuning to the light of my highest timeline, and I connect with the angels. That's my angel practice. I connect with them and I practice connecting with the angels. My light practice, I practice raising my frequency in whichever way feels in alignment with the light of my highest potential in that moment. So it is a practice of observation. It is a practice of compassion for myself if I feel like I've made a mistake or missed something. If I feel like I haven't actually been doing a good job, that's part of my practice. If I feel like I've been attached and controlling and needy and insecure, I use my practice to help me move through that. That's part of my practice. This is a way of living, you know. That's I mean it's so ironic to me that for so many of us, when we start on the angelic pathway, we do it for reasons that are completely the opposite of the outcome that we end up receiving. But you know, a lot of people turn to the angels because they want to know the answers. They want to know when things get. You know, when am I going to meet my soulmate? When am I going to find my house? You know, when am I not going to be sick anymore? When am I going to fall pregnant? Angels don't predict the future. Right? Angels help us learn how to live in a way that is accepting of everything that is occurring, even if it's actually really, really challenging. That is really powerful. It doesn't take away the circumstances, it doesn't take away the pain, but it helps us practice finding peace over and over and over and over again until really at some level you get to a point where you actually believe them. You know, your level of trust in their messaging has, you've had so many examples of, you know, being given guidance from them and going, all right, fine, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna take what feels so risky and so uncomfortable, and I'm gonna take a leap of faith and let go of control here. Right? And you've done that so many times, and they've been right every single time. I have 100% strike rate of their messages being right and in alignment with my highest good. I also reckon, Amy, that I've got 100% strike rate of not trusting them and resisting them and doubting them. That, you know, that's the irony of this.
Yeah.
So it's not about being a perfect spiritual person who can hashtag surrender all of the time. Basically, what we're talking about is constant moments where we are attached and uncomfortable and afraid, and taking a leap of faith to trust.
So that discomfort, it's almost like it's the pathway, right? It's
Yeah,
isn't it funny? It's almost like it's the gateway, right? If you are in
100%.
discomfort and if you are in resistance, and I've got that imagery still in my head of what you're saying of being on the cliff and it's all fog, right? Then that's exactly where you need to be. But we're
Yes,
not used to that. And I think
100%.
there's so many, and it scares so many that we, and I'm going to retract back and I'm going to go down this path because at
Yes,
least I know it's safe and it's controlled and it's known and it's familiar.
you got it. So, what we're talking about here, right? This is how we co create a brand new timeline. What you just said is basically the hack to the system of being a human being.
Mm.
So once you know this, you can actually practice some awareness, which is, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe this isn't what I think. Maybe I have absolutely no idea what's actually going on here. And maybe I might ask the angels for some help. And I might practice stepping off my karmic wheel,
Mm.
old timelines that I can feel no longer serve me.
Mm.
And I might open to a brand new outcome that is in alignment with my highest timeline. Of course, that's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Of course, that's going to feel a little bit scary. But do you want to know something really interesting? What do we all want, right? We want to manifest like this amazing, incredible life. That's how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because we're used to thinking that when we're meant to have we're meant to figure it out with our mind, and that's the biggest illusion, right? That's the biggest distortion, is that we think that our mind has the answer. Our mind, if our mind is telling us don't go there, we're not going to go there. And I think that that's the biggest distortion out of all of it, is that we believe our mind and we believe our thoughts, right? And yet on the flip side, with the, then turning to the angelic wisdom, where it is taking you down a path that is unfamiliar, because it's unfamiliar. You haven't walked it
Mm,
before. And so this is what we're doing collectively as well, right? Like,
yeah.
we're creating, co-creating that,
Right?
yeah, which is beautiful, powerful, and incredibly scary. So I think it's such a powerful message for people to know that if
Mm.
there's fear, you're right on track. If
Yeah.
it's scary, you're right on track. And I know you've said this to me so many times in our mentoring sessions. And, it's so important to, and I know you're so passionate about this, to utilize the support that's there.
I think like this is something that I obviously, with my work, I actually feel very, very strongly about this, but I also can understand it from the human perspective, right? So, my part of my passion historically is that I can see that we have been um, intentionally guided away from the divine in a way that is sovereign and free and independent. So, yes, of course, this has happened a lot in the mainstream religious pathway. We've been taught that we've been taught that channeling angels is something that only, say, for example, a priest should do. We've been taught that channeling is the work of the devil. But then within the spiritual pathway as well, we've been taught to look to an external source who has this special gift and they can give us the message, right? But so that's actually distracted us from the simplicity and the purity of the truth, which is that every single person has their own personal guardian angels, and every single human being can learn and remember how to speak with them, as well as their archangels as well, right? But then the other side of this is, like at some point, you basically got to acknowledge that you're learning to speak to figment what at times I feel like, am I making this, am I up, is this
Yeah.
figments of my imagination? Like I'm learning to make really significant, sometimes very difficult or very challenging decisions based on trusting a voice that I have no control over, that nobody else can verify or hear.
Mm,
That's pretty big.
mm,
Like the leap of faith that's required to actually trust the angels, it's not a one-time event.
mm,
It's not like I can honestly tell you that I still have doubt. I still find it hard to trust their messaging, but I practice trusting over and over and over again. And it does become easier. And when you know this journey, you do, like at some point, you do actually start to trust them. The irony is you actually start to trust yourself when that happens as well. It's actually so healing.
mm, 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 mm. And then when you trust yourself, you trust life, and you trust
Right.
things, and it's beautiful. It is, and it's really, it's devastating. I mean, it's all as it's meant to be as well. But for many of us that have learnt or been programmed not to trust in ourselves, and
Mm,
giving that power away to external voices to tell us,
yeah.
and that's the tragedy, really. And we're finding our way back from there. And work that you do is supporting people to find their way back from there. Work that I do as well. I mean, and that's what's, and we can come back from that and learn to develop.
Right.
And that's what I've
Yeah.
learned from you, Shananda, too, is that, it is very much a daily practice, as you say, each day. And what is the next thing that I need to know? And that is it, because we tend to want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Our mind will take us there. And it's just really coming back. And the angels are so beautiful at supporting us with that,
Yeah.
which is what it's all about. You particularly have a beautiful relationship with the archangels. Can you speak
Mm,
a bit more about that and where that came about? Because as you said, we've all got our guides that we've been assigned to when we come in here before we incarnate,
mhm,
access to different realms of consciousness and
mhm.
loved ones and so forth, you work quite closely with the archangels, and
Yeah.
you speak a little bit about why that is and how, they have different roles that can support us as well at the moment.
Yeah, look, one of the things look, my relationship with the angels happened accidentally. I didn't plan this. I learned how to connect with them, and I learned how to connect with them because I was actually going through some really, like, very, very challenging personal experiences, and so I started working with Archangel Michael. And when I say working, I mean connecting. That's what that means to me. I started connecting with Archangel Michael out of desperation because I was experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, extreme panic attacks, involuntary and spontaneous psychic experiences, a lot of ghosts, you name it. It was actually very difficult. It was very, very difficult. So I started learning to connect with Archangel Michael because I had some awareness. I was kind of open to this stuff, like many of us are. And what I'd heard was that he could help me shield and protect from things that felt like they were moving through me, and I was having these, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like communication that was not being initiated by me, and I had no control over it. So it was out of desperation. But what I learned as a result of that journey, starting with Archangel Michael, is that it just naturally ended up being a journey of me learning about all of the different archangels. And archangels are a little bit different to guardian angels. It's, to put it really crudely, there are different species of angels, so guardian angels are completely different from archangels. And there are other forms or groups or species of angels as well. There are collective angels as well. But most people are familiar with the archangels and guardian angels as well. So they actually look different. Guardian angels, for those who can see in their mind's eye, and some people can see with their physical eyes as well. Guardian angels have a really radiant, like pure golden field, whereas archangels can be quite different. They can have different colors, or one main color, or two or three main colors. They're still angels. They just have a different purpose. Guardian angels are here to work directly with you and support you. We have two or three guardian angels. Some people have four. And archangels work with us, work with all of us. They have specific areas that they are really passionate about supporting humanity through, the themes that they help us through. Archangel Michael, a lot of people are familiar with him. He's a great one to use as an example. Obviously, he has a masculine energy. So, yes, he works to help us if we are navigating any kind of shift in awareness around the divine masculine. So, whether you're a man or a woman, the being able to practice connecting with the literal divine masculine is extraordinary healing, and his frequency is often very, it feels so healing and so devotional, safe, protective, unconditionally loving, in a way that you might describe almost as fatherly. But often for many people, they've never actually experienced that level of integrity and purity and unconditional love from any man in their life, not to that level, right? That actually sometimes it's a little bit triggering and people won't trust it. So Archangel Michael, if his energy holds what I'm just describing there, that means that we can work with him when we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Right? When we feel that we need support, when we feel unworthy, when we don't feel confident, when we have doubt, when we have fear. That's literally exactly when we should be allowing ourselves to receive that energy that is protective and calming and reassuring and helps us feel confident. There's many other things that we can work with Archangel Michael for, but I think a lot of people will be familiar with that example that I'm sharing today. So archangels are a little bit different from guardian angels, and we can, it's great. We can choose to work with whichever one we resonate with or we want to work with, and sometimes they come through spontaneously and just kind of give you what feels like an angelic tap on the shoulder to let them know that they're there. You know, and I'm sure you would have had experiences like this too. I had I've got so many cool stories I could tell you, but I do remember specifically Archangel Nathaniel. I felt like he kept tapping me on the shoulder for a long time. And I didn't really want to go there because what I'd read about him, this is a long time ago at the beginning of my journey, what I'd read about Nathaniel is that he shows up when there's some shadow work and he's going to help you move through like what might be described as a transition or a rebirth or a growth phase. And you know, there's a little bit of no thanks, not down for that work. That feels like that's going to be hard. You know, we often have some resistance to our healing if we don't feel ready. But his energy is he's actually here now having a chuckle. That's quite funny. He's quite playful, he's quite humorous, and he's amazing. Ironically, it seems really obvious, doesn't it? That's exactly what he's really good at supporting you through, because his energy is very playful and youthful, and he's got a really brilliant way of saying, "Yeah, but is that true, Shananda? Is it really going to be hard? Or is it maybe going to be something that you actually have no idea about? And am I here anyway? And am I going to help you through this?" They've all got a different tone. They all feel different. You know, they've got a different area that it's like they just radiate that particular frequency. And we can intentionally choose to connect with them and receive that support. And in my personal experience, each one of them has helped me heal in some way, you know. And yeah, sometimes it's been uncomfortable and challenging, but the outcome has been profoundly healing. I feel more on the angelic pathway than any other single modality that I've done them all. I've done, you know, one-on-one therapy, I've done group therapy, I've done kinesiology, I've done Reiki, I've done acupuncture, I've done homeopathy, I've done courses, I've read books, I've done all the things, and they've all had their place in my journey for sure. But this has healed me and expanded me in alignment with my highest potential in a way I can't even prove this to anyone. It's it doesn't even matter. I don't even care what anybody else thinks, because for me, this is so sacred and so intimate, and so I hold so much reverence for the intimate nature of my relationship with them, and the constant, unwavering, steadfast, patient acceptance and love that they've given me over 15 years
Mm.
is almost impossible to put into words.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael is, you mentioned Michael, and I feel like, yeah, a lot of people, he's the one that seems to be the most popular, right? People just
Yeah,
tend to know
yeah.
about tend to know about Michael, and I bet you now with Nathaniel coming in that you have a much different relationship to that now. It probably excites you a little bit more because you're like,
Yes, yeah.
let's go there if there's stuff that we need to move through. And but Michael, brilliant also. And actually, you taught me this with Michael about working with him in business as well.
Mm,
For our listeners who, a lot of them are entrepreneurs and navigating business. So that was life changing for me with bringing him in and asking for his guidance in that
yeah,
as well with different things was incredible, as well as the energetic clearing. I feel like this is a real
yeah.
part of that this process as well is keeping our energetic hygiene intact. And
Mm,
I know for me, and going back to being an empath, and I find with clients that I work with as well, is just how important it is for keeping, cutting the cords and clearing the energy and clearing the aura. And I know that you're big with that with Michael as well, and your own
yes.
teachings, because he's so amazing with that. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just so much, right? It's like we get to like the tip of the iceberg, and then you can start to it's a really I found it's such a process of allowing
Yes.
and allowing again and again. And it's a beautiful process. And I'm so grateful for you for the work that you do. And you're a brave soul as well. Because I know, and you've mentioned this before, in how you have some souls have signed up to work with some of the dark energies as well, and it's not for everyone. And the way that you are in your truth as well, really unapologetically in your truth, coming from love, I think that you're such a guide for so many. And I'm so grateful for you in so many incredible ways, as I know many of us are. And keep doing what you're doing. I want to speak about your book because you do have a book. Can you mention about your book that you have that people can access, and also just how people can find you, the different ways people can access you?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, hon. Well, my first book was released in 2022, and it's called The New Angel Messages. And I wrote this book over the course of 2020, which was a very interesting journey for me in itself. What had happened is at the end of 2019, the angels had said to me, "We want you to share a message on your social media every day for 2020." And my response was, WTF?
Mhm.
Every single day for the whole year. What if I don't know what to say? And they said, well, it's not you that's going to be saying something, it's us. You just have to trust us. Like, yeah, but what if I can't do it? And they said, we will always give you something, and we will always make sure that you can do it. And it's like, what's so important about next year that you want me to write a message every single day? Like, that's a pretty big ask, guys. And they said, let's just do it and see what happens. And I didn't know that it was going to be a book. I started on the 1st of January. And then, isn't it interesting? Obviously, they had a plan because things started to get pretty curly in 2020. And by March or April, I actually remember thinking, oh my God, they knew. They knew what was coming, and they were doing this on purpose. It wasn't until about halfway through the year that I realized they were giving me a book, that there was a book coming through with this process. So that book is a fabulous introduction to the angels. So it's not the kind of book where you're going to learn about all their colors and all their auras and what they do. It's actually much more powerful than that. You're going to have an experience of reading this book over a year, which is what I'd recommend, of the angelic frequency and actually building a relationship with them. So that's much more powerful and something that I feel very strongly about. So that's a great place to start. I wrote those messages on Instagram. So if you guys want to connect with me, that's my place. That's the place that for whatever reason, the frequency, it feels like it flows better for me there. I can share the messages that come through on that platform. So I'm much more active on Instagram. YouTube's never really gotten my goat. I don't feel very guided to openly share there. And for those who are ready to actually start the journey, and it's an activation. I know that, people will actually feel like it's time to start learning or remembering to connect with the angels. The best thing to do is jump onto my website, because my courses they take you through every step of the journey, from absolute beginners to very advanced, which you've experienced, Amy. So it starts with the Angel Immersion course, and it can take you through to 3 levels of advanced practitioner angel connection, the Angel Messenger certification. And this is not just about working with the angels professionally, it's actually about me teaching you how to navigate your own human journey and ascension journey to very high levels of confidence and skill and connection with the angels. So the outcome is actually, my intended outcome is that you get to the point where you feel as confident as I do, the way that you do, Amy, which I've seen you navigate that journey. And it's been a tremendous honor to walk alongside you as you've blossomed into that level of connection and grace with your relationship with the angels and all of the wonderful ways that it's benefited you. That's my job. That's what I do.
Mm. And thank goodness for that. And it's a beautiful journey because I've been through it, and I think also just having a mentor at the moment and having the support. I mean, we talk about the support in the ethereal realm, which is phenomenal. And I highly suggest everybody cultivate, and I'm passionate about that work as well. Cultivate your own spiritual connection and your own connection with your angelic team, be that your guides or your archangels, is start to really develop that, but also to be able to be in community with others and call on the support of others and mentors to help you, because we fall into doubt so easily.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had
Yeah.
conversations with you before where I'll be like jumping on a call with you and going, WTF, I don't know what is going on. And
Yeah.
have someone else that can just remind you The messages that come through the angels are always so confirming. So to have somebody else that can remind you is just so powerful and so needed. And I don't know where I would be without that, to be honest. So I'm so
It's something that I think often we're taught not to listen to as well, not to allow ourselves to receive human support. But in this particular arena, it is really, ironically, it's actually still emerging. You know, the angelic pathway. Oh my God, I just feel like I haven't even started. There's so much more work to do. So to have people like yourself who've actually really committed to the practices and have gotten to a level like you have of embodiment of that, who can then help others. Actually, you know, I feel very strongly about that. We need lots more people out there in the world who can do exactly what you're describing and help people as they're navigating these steps of WTF. I get, you know, what do I do here? What's going on there? How did you get through that? What do I do? Which angel do I work with? Am I doing it right? Am I making it up? These things are actually really useful.
So just to finish off then on that note, where are we heading in these coming years? There's an inevitability about this ascension. We know that. Things might get a bit hairier in the 3D before all of that. Anything you want to offer? Any final comments on that?
You know, I've seen multiple different potential outcomes and timelines for this kind of, you know, mass awakening point that we're going through. I've seen ones that look really tricky and really dark and will be really painful. And I've seen ones where it happens quickly and ones where it happens in a long time. And ultimately, the thing I find really interesting about that is it all comes down to the same messages from the angels, is that it's us individually that, you know, what do we want? You know, do we want this to be something that happens quickly, hard and fast, rip off the band-aid? Do we want it to be long and drawn out? It's actually up to us. So actually, that's probably the most important message that I want to share today. It's up to you. You hold the key. It's your light. It's your ascension pathway. It's your commitment to embodiment of your highest potential that actually most positively impacts what truthfully needs to be called spiritual warfare right now. And yes, that might feel activating, but that's what you're here for.
What a beautiful note to finish on. And that calling needn't frighten anyone, because it's what we chose to come here
Right.
for. It's just that remembrance is what we signed up for. And we don't need to walk that path alone. We've got so much support to help us with this. We're prepared. So I think that's a really
That's it.
beautiful note to finish on. Thank you so much, Shunanda. I love you so much. And thank you for being here and sharing your immense wisdom and your light as you do so freely. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. I love chatting with you as always.
Okay. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the follow button on whatever platform you are listening to it on. This ensures that this transmission can get out there into the world to those who need it, touch the hearts of those who could benefit from it. So please do that. Feel free to share it, review it, even better. And it just helps to really spread the love and keep this channel active. Thanks so much.